So this is all based, all to understanding of Yaakov and Yisrael. So it's all based on the Medrash that the Eibishter went a distance of Tov Kuf Shona Kedei Liknos Leishem. So he explains what 500 is. 500, first of all, 5 are the Iker Midas, Ishtalshalus. The Iker Midas are from Chesed down to Hoid, because Yesod is a funnel, and so is Malchus. The Midas, the actual emotions of the heart, are the 5 Midas. So that's the Iker of Ishtalshalus. Now each one of the Midas Beprotish is made up of all 10 Sfiras are threaded within it, so that's 50. And then times 10, again, as it embraces all of the 10 Sfiras, so that's how the number 500 is arrived at. And Nukuda is, it means Ishtalshalus. So the point of Ishtalshalus, the Medrash is saying in a cryptic way, that what's the kavan of the Bria, in simple language, is in order for the Eibishter to acquire a name. That we should be Megala, in other words, his name, throughout and within his creation. Now the Maimon first began to explain that the name is Mili Ha'ora. It's only for the purpose of the other one, of the outsider, the Zulas. But then he added that the Kavana Halyon is not just to establish his name, but the Rosa Dishmei. And Lashon Chassidus quotes from the Zohar. And Rosa Dishmei, the secret, the mystery, the Pnimius or Atzmos, that's the Kavana that the Eibishter wants us to draw him into creation, which is created through the union of Hashem, as he said before, the various spheres, Chesed, the 7 spheres which creates creation, and they are themselves per se Mili Ha'ora, but the Kavan is the Rosa Dishmei. So, let's continue that therefore. By the number 40, just 2 lines above that. So Bachlal, Moichen, Midas rather, are all for the other. It's all an emotional relationship with somebody else, with something else. You love something, you fear something. But Moichen is la'atzmai. Seichel is just the objective entertainment of things. It doesn't need a relationship. And pure Seichel doesn't have a relationship. So the Midas need, by definition, something with which you're getting entangled with one way or another. How much more so l'mayla, that she'ein zeh k'mei b'midas shel. So the Maila, for sure, the Moichen, the Darga of Moichen, Chabad, surely is hide in Seichel, hide in creation. But even the Midas, because Shav Shamidas and Mishvil Alazulis, Mishaychas Alazulis, so Midas are related to others, and it's a boyfriend should never show them Mispa'elis Mea Midas. So down here by us, we're affected by the other. L'mayla lav mikol inun midas ir klal, was the Eibishter himself, l'mayla, what he says, he's totally beyond the inyan of midas. The person is affected by his emotional relationships. But God, that's because he's hardwired. The person is hardwired to have seichel and midas. The Eibishter is not hardwired, lav mikol inun midas ir klal. So therefore, v'kiven shekol say d'ishtalshus of m'chinas ha-midas. So therefore, the holding in the midas for the Eibishter is in the merest ha'ora. And this whole Ohelik takshona, so that's the 500 years, that's the Iker Midas as explained. All of this is a name. What's the meaning of Holach? God went. what yumshech in the halichas HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A diuk here. So God went. The meaning of halicha means a radical step, a radical step from one destination to the other. So his desire is that in this 500-year Ishtalshalus, which is the symbol of Ishtalshalus, there should be the inyan of Holach HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that we, through Avodah, should be mamshich, the Eibishter, high as he is, Hamshoch Shalamayin Mekol Seder Ishtalshalus, Ambitis inyan halicha blikvul. Summary. The Nimsa Shinyan the Holach HaKadosh Baruch Hu Malik Tak Shona Likas Neishem. So he's explaining that, therefore, that the statement in the Medrash is exactly what the Zohar is saying. The Medrash says the Eibishter went 500 years to acquire a name. What that means is that in the inyan of shame, which is a mitzvah, which is only a ha'orah, he wants that there should be the Holach HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We should mamshich the Pnimius, B'derech Halicha, this radical, a level which is radically beyond the inyan of shame, radically beyond the inyan of ha'orah, radically beyond ishtal shalos leimni pnimis vatzmus of alikus. This is the Holach HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we have to be mamshich to Torah mitzvahs, which is the whole point of having the name in the first place. And that's exactly what he says in Zohar. Shal derech ha'inyan l'sakon roza d'shmei, that the whole avodah of Torah mitzvahs is to establish the secret of his name, meaning Shagam ba'ora hanikras Shem, that even in this very finite expression of the Eibishter to become a creator, which is the most negligible expression of Alikus and doesn't define him at all, but in this creator should be Yumshech b'bchinas pnimis ha'atzmos, that the Eibishter is immeasurably and infinitely beyond the role of creator, and this true God should be revealed in Ishtal Shalos. Ois hey. Yeah, we're clear? So Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, Netzach, Ahoid, and Yesoid, and even Matan, that's certainly Malchus. All that says, God is a creator. The emes is, he's not a creator. He chose to be, but he's not. So the kavan is that to reveal the Eibishter is higher than creator in creator, and that's the Holach, and that's the Roz of the Shmei. In the Ekos, in Hashem, is Shnei, so we're talking about names. So the klolos of all of them are the two primary names of Havai Velikim. Even though in more detail there are 10, Tzvachlik where the Shem Tzvokis is included, for example, or Eka, Asher Eka is included. So therefore, in detail there are 10, which we outlined earlier, Kanal Sev Gimel. And in the bigger picture there are 7. However, of all of these, the Iker is Havai and Elikim. Why the Kivin Shin Hashem who Kadelis Kisha V'Chibi Mazulas. So what's the inyan here? The whole point of a name again is a relationship with the other. So how does it work down here? The person wants to have a relationship with a recipient who's not in his world. So he cannot express himself as he is. He's got to screen, he's got to contain his revelation. Such that his relationship will be that which he's giving should be able to be received by the other. We're talking in the model here where he's incomparable. It's all, of course, relatively incomparable. But the Eibush is be'emes bein naroich. So also in order that the Eibush should produce this inyan of Shem, the midas, again, in the language we're using here, in order to become a creator, that's a great descent. That there should be the merest glimmer in the Oilimus. There can't be any more, because if the Ein Sof would be revealed as Ein Sof is, the Oilimus couldn't exist. But he doesn't want that. He wants there should be only Hoid, the Yalaretz V'Shemayim, only his rays on earth and heaven. Which are incomparable, so therefore has to be tzarech Tchila tzarech lis tchila inyan hatzimtzum. So therefore, v'zeh inyan beis Hashem zavai v'likim, hence the two names zavai v'likim, shal yodam nivra kol said ishtalshalus, the primary midas through which ishtalshalus comes into being. K'misha kosabi Masay is havai v'likim eretz v'shamayim. The Torah summarizes the whole creation as the day when Havai V'likim brought heaven and earth into existence. Meaning the Eretz V'Shamayim K'Elit, Akal Eretz V'Shamayim Gashmim. This, the pasuk refers not just to physical sky and earth, Elagamal Eretz V'Shamayim Ruchnim. V'yad L'Hadarge Yusal Yud, even the loftiest levels. Hainu Klol Seder Shtalshalus. So the pasuk is saying, V'Kol Zen Nasa D'Beis Hashem is Havai V'likim. This is all to explain now the tzimtzum. Yet in all of the 10 utterances through which creation comes into being, at the end he mentions Havaya, but throughout creation is Vayem Elikim. Bereshis Bar Elikim. Bereshis Bar Elikim is Tviras HaChochma. Just to elaborate there for a moment. If you count how many times it says Vayem Elikim, it's how many times? Basar Mamaris Livra Eilam, this week's Pirkei Avos, the first Mishnah. But if you count, no, you don't know, so it's only 9. The Gemara asks, only 9, so the Gemara answers that Bereshis Nami Maimerhu. Bereshis Bar Elikim is also one of the utterances. This is Mazbek, actually Pshutish Mikra. It's based on Pshutish Mikra. Rashi explains that how the creation work. Bereshis Bar Elikim, everything was created at the outset, but non-differentiated in a swirling mass of gases, solid, and liquids that make up the entire cosmos. That's Chochmah, that everything is there, but in a state of complete bittul, undifferentiated. That's Bereshis Bar Elikim, Pshutish Mikra. Then Rashi says, each day when God said, Vayem Elikim, which we now understand now means Tzimtzum, then takes from Chochmah, which is also a result of Tzimtzum. But there everything is in a way of potential differentiated existence. So then comes the 9 Maimodes, Vayem Elikim, Yoir, Yirikia, we should be Mavdal B'Mayim, L'Moyim, etc. So the other 9 utterances separated, as it were, again, Rashi explains, separated each thing, and each thing was formed with its unique identity. But Akaponim, it's all Shem Elikim. So even Bereshis Bar Elikim, which is also one, again, Chochmah, it's Bereshis Bar Elikim. Again, to a simple Regil student, for God to be creator is a fundamental tzimtzum. It's a yerida. So, even though the two forces, as it were, this binary system at the outset is a Havai Elikim, what does he mention? Only Shem Elikim. And not only does he mention Shem Elikim, Lamed Beis Pa'amim, 32 times. He's the Lamed Beis Nesivos of Chochmah, the 32 paths of Chochmah. Again, Chochmah is the potential. And then it manifests in 32 different ways. Where does the number come from? Amongst other things, it is the 22 letters of the Aleph Beis and the Esesviris. That's 22 and 10, that's the 32. That's all the pratim that bring out and identify and separate each individual component of the Bria. Now, so that's what's mentioned. Shem Elikim was Shem Midas HaGvura V'Tzimtzum. And Elikim, of course, it's Tzimtzum. V'Abiyah B'Zeh. So why is it that creation, or notwithstanding that it's through Havai Elikim, as said in the summary of creation, but in describing the process of creation, only mentions Shem Elikim. It's very fundamental mind. V'Abiyah B'Zeh. I don't know what's coming next. Often happens this way. We get a whole akdam and then a deep dive. We'll see. I don't know. He's quoting here from where? This next quote, friends. You don't have to guess. It tells you in the order. This is the Eitz upon which the whole Chassidus is based. Before the Tzimtzum, he describes that the Ein Sof filled the entire empty space. What's it called? Vacuum. We've addressed this many times over the course of the Maimonides. The language here is absolutely impossible. Every single word here is Meir, Kashias, Atzumis. Chassidus unpacks it all and explains it. There's no Mokim HaCholol. If Ein Sof has Malit, what is this Mokim HaCholol? Every word here. Memalech, everything. Akoponim, this is the language. And there wasn't place for the emergence, as it were, of the Oilimus. It's not exactly the Lashon of Eitz Chaim. He's threading it with some connecting words. In order for this to be creation, here the key word, he removed his great light to the side. This, of course, is the most incomprehensible statement. Tzad, silik, and that's why many misunderstood it and made very great errors in understanding what the Eitz means. As he says, we learned recently in Sha'ar Yichud. Miktsas chachamim beineim. So thank God that Alter Rebbe cleared that up, and there's no one that subscribes to any of those shittas, of the 4 shittas of the Tzimtzum. Those 4 shittas be'emes are all shittas in Torah. He means Pashat, they got it fundamentally wrong. Kipshutai, Tzimtzum Kipshutai. I'm not going to that whole sugya. So this is the Nekuda now. Shazel Inyan Tzimtzum Addition. So what's the silik area? Hagodol Atzad, he removed this great light to the side. That's the Tzimtzum, the first Tzimtzum. Why does he call it the Tzimtzum Addition? Anybody? Not a trick question. Huh?
It's the first time something like this happened. Seder Shtashos.
So maybe it only happened once?
Every single process of Seder Shtashos is another Tzimtzum.
Right. Yeah. So it's called the Tzimtzum Barishan. It's also called the Tzimtzum Agodol, which was in a way of Silik Legam, but it's unlike all the Tzimtzumim that follow thereafter, in that quote unquote, it's a complete removal. Tachlis Ahelim. And then after this absolute tzimtzum, so then the kav, the line as it were, graded, measured revelation, projection of alikus, shukav kotzer, described as a small line or thin line, narrow line. It's also small in all directions. Starts at Atzilus and ends at Lamhazim. It's a very limited revelation. So therefore, that's it. That's the summary of the statement in the Eitz. And therefore, the Torah mentions Beishas Ba'alikim. Because that close to Inyan, the Beis Hashem is the Ba'alikim. The Shem Alikim who Inyan at Tzimtzum. Shem Alikim is the Tzimtzum that allows for, he's going to explain Paprotius more in the next ois. Sheideze Yuchol Liyas HaGilu, the Shem Havai Ba'olam, the Tzimtzum allows for the Gilu of Shem Havai in a very limited way, but nonetheless a Gilu in creation. So, what does this mean? Now, to explain. Paprotius Yois, we learn this together, friends, because they didn't learn it yet. Yeshnam Beis Inyonim B'Hashem Yis Havai V'Alikim. So more detail now, because of what does it mean? Gilu Shem Havai Ba'olam. What does that mean? The whole point of the Tzimtzum is because Havai cannot be revealed in the Olam. That's why you have the inyan of the Tzimtzum. So what does it mean that the point of the Tzimtzum there should be Gilu Shem Havai? And for that matter, what is Shem Havai? Shem Elikim, he said, that's the Tzimtzum of the Ein Sof. What's Shem Havai? So he's going to explain now. The emes is, there's Beis Inyonim B'Hashem is the Va'alikim. The Hina Yedua, she has Beis Shem is Havai. There's 2 expressions of Shem Havaya. Havaya de Leila, Havaya de Lesata, where's that hinted to?
Shema, Baruch Shem.
Huh?
Yichud Eilai, Yichud Hadar, maybe?
No, in Psukim, where's it hinted in the Pasuk? Hashem, Hashem, Keracham Achanan. 2 times. It's a big chiddush to say there's 2 Havayas. So what does it mean? The closing is that the Gilui Ein Sof Shohim Amale Makam Achol Kameshul Lifnei Tzimtzum. So the Gilui Ein Sof that filled the vacuum before the Tzimtzum, whatever that means. But Akoponim, one thing we're getting is clear. All we need to know is we're speaking pre-Tzimtzum. Huyin Havai de Leila. That's Havai de Leila. V'amshochas hakav shel acharei Tzimtzum. But then the kav is Havaya de Lesata. Kiyadua. There's 2 basic perushim in Shem Havaya. One is the eternal one, hinted to in Haya, Haya v'yir ke'echad. So that b'chlolos is Havaya de Leila lifnei tzimtzum. And then there's Havaya, it's a name. Yud is Chachma, Hey is Bina, Vav is the 6 midas, finally Hey is Malchus. That's Havaya de Lesata. That the emphasis there is, and as you break down the Oisius, even though they obviously exist lifnei tzimtzum as well, but on a whole different level. But as they exist in their defined form, that's Havaya de Lesata. Ishtalshalas. Now, since as it's known, I'm not sure of what's coming next. It says, I see this elsewhere, I don't see a footnote. This is just said now, right? That's from Kotei Torah. There's 2, Havaya de Lesata and Havaya de Leila. But now the Rebbe says it's understood, Shegam b'Shem Elikim yeshna beis inyanim. Doesn't bring us a source, maybe later. Shem Elikim hashayich l'Shem Havaya de Leila. There's the Shem Elikim, the way it applies to Havaya de Leila.
Why can't you say this is a hemshech to what the Rebbe Rashab is saying?
Rebbe
Rashab.
What are you talking
I'm
about?
saying he says Yudua. In Yudua, he brings up from Ayin Beis. In Yudua 51. Oh, sorry.
I don't think so. I have to look it up there.
No,
it doesn't sound like it.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I meant from Terror. Sorry.
Whatever. Mizem Movement sounds like Rebbe is adding this. But first of all, what's the hechlech? What's the hechlech? Go a little further, we'll see. What's the hechlech? Maybe there's Havaya de Leila. And then you have Shem Elikim Tzimtzum Kipshutai. And then Havaya de Lesata. What's the hechlech? The Shem Elikim, the way it's shaykh to Havaya de Leila, and Shem Elikim Havaya de Lesata. What's the hechlech? Maybe we'll see later. But in Pashtus, these are the 2 primary names of God. These are His names. These are His names. So where one exists, the other does. Because since the Al-Kavan is a binary system, so at all of the levels, this duality, these 2 expressions exist. Keich ha-bli gvul and keich ha-gvul. That's the shayrish of it all. Let's go further. So Mzem Movin sheyesh gam b'Shem Elikim is the base in Yon b'Shem Elikim hashayich l'Shem Havaya de Leila, and then Shem Elikim hashayich l'Shem Havaya de Lesata. Let's see that's better. Close inyan. So what's the inyan? I don't know myself. Let's find out. Shepulas hatzimtzum varishon hoye bebeis inyan. So the first tzimtzum affected 2 things. Inyan aleph, the first thing is pulas hatzimtzum Shem Elikim Havaya de Leila. So the first is that the tzimtzum affects Havaya de Leila. Which we said before, the Havaya de Leila is b'chlal ein sof lifnei tzimtzum. So what did the tzimtzum payal? The yosib eifin shel silik legamri, as we described earlier. That's the silik eidei hagolel latzad, removing the eida bligvul from conscious revelation. V'hainu shalachre tzimtzum yeh b'chinas makiv bilvad. Post tzimtzum Havaya exists only in a makiv in our world, from our perspective. It only exists on a makiv dika plane, and which we now refer to, Sheza'inyan Oir HaSev Kol Almin. That's the first thing of the Tzimtzum. So the Tzimtzum peiled that in the Malkim HaCholol should be devoid of this revelation, and that revelation, therefore, metaphorically, hovers outside of it, and we call it, in physical language, Sev Kol Almin. Again, obviously, this is all from our perspective, but that's the Metzius. Vinyan Abezu, what's the second pull of the Tzimtzum? Or Pulus HaTzimtzum Shemalikim Ba'avayda L'Sata. So that is Shkalusa Yoyakav, as we asked before. That's the Tzimtzum B'Rishon and Tzimtzum afterwards. So the Tzimtzum, the Tkech Shemalikim, continues to be peil on the Giloi that happened, the Yoyakav, that comes post Tzimtzum B'Rishon, leaves Ba'efen Shel Oir Pnimi, that this should be a kind of revelation that can be contained by Kalim, Bislapshus B'Kalim, Sheza'inyan Oir Mamala Kol Almin. Okay, I have to think about this. Does he mean that the second pula is the ongoing pula side tzimtzum creating the different levels? Doesn't sound like he means that. Maybe he does. Or does he mean that notwithstanding the Tzimtzum Arishan, so the Tzimtzum Arishan paled only the Siluk Sevev Kol Almin. B'chlal it says, so the Kav, what I'm thinking aloud is this: the Kav, when it's nimshach through the Tzimtzum, pales already Mamala Kol Almin. It's one Pa'ula. It's one Pa'ula. By paling the Inyan, the Sefer Kol Almin, which means that the Rabbi is not revealed in the Makom HaCholol where creation will and potentially takes place and does take place. So this screen naturally pales that the Oy which is Nimshach is the Oy Gvuli. It's really one thing. He's separating the two here. There are two Pa'ulas. Now, it could mean it is one thing, it's just identifying the two effects. One is the Silik, and one is that therefore that the Hamshacha thereafter, post Tzimtzum, is now Havayad L'Sata, which means Oy Pnimi, Oiris and Kelim, as I said before, Yud is Chochma, Hey is Bina. So it could be, does mean that. It's one Pa'ula, but it has two effects. Yeah. Pull a Tzimtzum Barishim, but yeah, that is the Pshat. So the Tzimtzum is Bebeis in Yonim. It's not two separate Pa'ulas. The Pa'ula is in two areas. Clear? Poshet? It pales that the Oir HaBligvul is not revealed, and it pales that the Oir which is revealed is Mamala Kol Almin, is a Oir which is Nimshach and Keli, a finite Oir. In other, simply, the infinite not revealed, Gvul, the result. That seems to be what he's saying. Yeah? Okay, so we'll stop here. I'll think about it. God willing, God will give me some time to do that. And we'll continue tomorrow.